I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Jiao Tian to moderate the session, which he's going to do from there so he can see everyone's questions.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the afternoon session. I will have the pleasure to moderate the panel called Problems of Transition. Our first presentation is by Professor Sultan Mehmood from New Economics School, followed by the commentation by Violeta Zuda from U Chicago.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and also Don for inviting me. So since I have 10 minutes, I will go study this paper right away. We'll start with, once upon a time there was this big bad wolf, right? And actually, I don't think many Americans think of him as a fantastic guy, but like he was responsible for genocide of many Balochis and Pakhtuns and killed a lot of people as well. And he ruled Pakistan. He did some good things, but also ruled with an iron fist. And I was growing up during this time, and it reminded me like things which my students at the economic school in Moscow say, that we are going to keep, like our dictator will stay forever, and we will be basically grow up and die under his leadership. But I always tell them, like, this paper will be about paper of hope. And basically, just like many other dictators, this guy was extremely popular. This is independent polling by the IRI Institute. It basically shows that people were saying that he was like 60% of people were saying he was doing an amazing job, and he seemed pretty persistent. The economy was doing great. Funds from the USA was flowing in plenty. Pakistan economy was doing amazing. But something happened, right? As you see, his popularity falls from like over 60% to 15%. And just in a matter of few months, something happened in March of 2007. And this guy was exiled. Protests. There were protests. He ran to another country, and the courts convicted him to death because of his egregious assault on democracy. And just a few months ago, his death sentence was also in absentia, because he was living in Dubai, was upheld by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. With Justice Shah and all the people organized were also in this bench. So the question is, what can we learn from the episode which brought General Musharraf down on, say, to speak about unsuccessful social movements? So, unfortunately, most of the anti-authoritarian movements or movements of transition, fail, due to various reasons. Now, here is a paper which is going to provide like a glimpse, an instruction glimpse on the big question, how to overthrow a dictator. So the question is, I present evidence from the 2007 lawyers movement in Pakistan. And what I will show you is the importance of the civil society, and in particular the bar associations, how these organizations of bar associations organized protests, strikes, boycotts, provided people a safety in being in large numbers, which allowed more people to join. So that's this paper is going to be about it. So let me just begin with telling you how it all began. So what's the story behind this? So this is an iconic picture released by the state media at that time, where General Musharraf met the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Mr. Sultan Mehmood, and the press release came up with that he had a really great dinner, a really great lunch with the Chief Justice of Pakistan. But on the same night, Iftikhar Chaudhry sent an affidavit to his own court, Supreme Court. He signed an affidavit and said that General Musharraf, with 4 other generals, asked him to resign, otherwise there will be consequences for him and his family. And in the affidavit he also says that he has refused, and he will go to court as the Chief Justice of Pakistan tomorrow. So he went tomorrow, the next day, on 9th March 2007 to court. And what happened then was he couldn't get to the court. The same security, which was his security, grabbed him and beat him up, roughed him up, and threw him in this police van where he was swiftly arrested and summarily dismissed. Now, what happened after this was something very interesting. Launched what is now known in the history books of Pakistan as the lawyers' movement, where lawyers, there are 200,000 lawyers in Pakistan, 200,000 and 30,000 lawyers in Pakistan. It launched this lawyers' movement all across the country. And what happened is that what the lawyers were doing is they started to go to different parts of the country in this 100-car caravan. And that's what I'm going to use as my identification. So these lawyers from different bar associations, which is highly decentralized, they started to go to city and organize into what is known as, like according to the New York Times, a cavalcade of about 100 cars jammed with lawyers. They start to travel across Pakistan, which is what I trace in this paper, and I show that this about 1,000 people marching all across Pakistan, and basically the darker regions are planned visits where he actually goes, and the places where he happens, like the lawyers where they pass by, we find that these are the places where Musharraf was most hit in popularity, in votes, in all sorts of other things which I can show. So what I show is that this place is this local variation in the movement. What it showed is that where there was this cavalcade of lawyers, support for General Musharraf fell really hugely. Votes for General Musharraf and also like support for the opposition really rose. And not only that, support for democratic institutions like the courts increased. And districts so this is the short run effect. In the long run, places where these lawyers went, those places now report a higher trust in formal courts, using administrative data shows actual usage of formal courts, and less usage of courts set by the Taliban, for example, the jirgas. So these places actually substitute these more brutal forms of justice. So this movement not only affected Musharraf, it also had a long-term effect on increasing the legitimacy of the whole court system. I'm not going to go into deep, like as an economist and as an applied economist, I spend a lot of time on identification. I have a bench of empirical methods which say that I find similar results, but I won't go into that. But what I would just say is, like, what were these bar associations? So in British India in 1857, constitutional courts were set up. At the time, only British judges would come in. But at the same time, local bar associations started to erupt from 1857 onwards. And these bar associations, in Pakistan, there are about 200 district and Supreme Court and High Court bar associations. And these bar associations defend not just against lawyers' professional rights, they have always been trying to stop attacks by military dictators to completely dismantle the court system. So military often tries, like they tried 2 weeks ago, to dismantle the courts, but they failed also again because of the bar association. So basically, lawyers organized by a bar association may be able to resist the autocrats' attempt to subvert the courts. I have some quantitative analysis showing that actually the support for General Musharraf was really concentrated in places which had bar association before the lawyer movement began. Other factors like other networks like madrasa networks in Pakistan, which are like the Saudi-funded networks of religious schools, those networks do not predict this support for the movement. It's really like this the bar association networks, amplification of the media, electoral fraud, all these things do not appear to explain these results, but that's more of a empirical detail. So in conclusion, I didn't go into the details of the paper because but I'm happy to answer this question. So what did this paper find? So it shows that places where these lawyers went, support for the autocrat and military as an institution fell, votes for the pro-lawyers movement party rose, trust in jirgas and panchayats fell, use of jirgas and panchayats fell, and actual use of formal courts increased. But what the main bottom line of this paper is that an organized civil society can be a force for democratic reform, and it can affect not just democratic reform, it can also affect trust in state institutions, and decrease the use of informal and even often brutal forms of justice. I will just end this discussion by saying that, like as Shakespeare said, let's kill all the lawyers. I would say, do not do it. It can be lawyers can be a huge force for bringing democratic reform. Thank you very much.